A very good afternoon or morning for everybody that's joining us on the Exporters second webinar that we're having. And today we're having it with regards to the financial sector and looking at things around there. I'm Neil Bach and I'm on the Exporters Committee, and my division is the marketing side that I look after. So you're more than welcome to email us and make contact with us if you've got any questions with regards to that. Make contact with Suzanne as well. I'm going to introduce the fellow presenters in a bit. I just want to go through some details with you. You'll see there's a chat site. The chat site is for you to ask questions. So if you click on chat and you write something there, and we're just going to do a test. I would like to see if everybody's online. So maybe if you could just comment there from where you are in the chat side, so we can see that everybody knows how that works specifically. That would be great. So just go to chat, and in the chat, if you could comment there for us where you are from, so we can see that everybody's fine in terms of that. So we will be open up for your questions this morning, and you're more than welcome to ask any questions as we go on throughout this whole morning as well. So joining me this morning, we have Luisa from Standard Bank. He's the head of business banking. A very good morning to you.
Good morning, Neil, and good morning to the listeners. Thank you for having Standard Bank this morning for this webinar.
Awesome, thanks so much. Then we have got PJ. He is the provincial manager for Nedbank, and he's also joining us this morning. A good morning to you, PJ. PJ, is your sound on? There we go. PJ, just check your sound again. I'm not hearing anything there. We'll come back to you in a second. Just check that. PJ, it was working now before we went live. And then obviously we've got Mizi joining us from Absa Bank. A very good morning to you as well. Mizi, he's the manager and specialist transactional solutions for Absa Bank as well.
Thank you. Good morning, Neil. Thanks for having me here.
Yes. PJ, just to go back to you, I see your mic is off. Just click on mic again. And now? No, I'm not hearing anything. So, PJ, I don't know if you want to maybe go out and just come back in again, just to be on the safe side. Not sure why that isn't working, and then we'll obviously start with the proceedings as well. See Sam's saying here, hey, I'm from Border Key Chamber. Suyet, he's also on the Exporters Committee, joining us. Stephen Burr from Stephen Burr Consulting, and also on Exporters Committee, Stephen Cup from Swartkorps Terminal. Quite a few people joining us this morning. We're just going to wait for PJ to rejoin us, and then we'll start with this morning's session specifically. I also just want to thank our diamond members on Exporters, who's SJM, Volkswagen, Propeller, IDC, DG Capital, Eberspacher, SIDA, Business Chamber, and Oracle Media, who's our diamond members on Exporters Eastern Cape, for everything that you have done and also your sponsorships in the past. And then we'll start off with this morning as soon as PJ is joining us. And you know, this is the funny thing of technology. Everything was running perfectly before we came on, and we all had a nice conversation. And then we go live, and all of a sudden, his mic isn't operational on that side.
Murphy's Law, Neil.
Pardon?
Murphy's Law.
I know. You can see he's joining the room again. Johan also saying he's joining from Technico Emissions Control in PE. So PJ, if you could just activate your video and mic, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
There we go. Perfect.
Wonderful.
Cool. So we're ready to start this morning. So obviously in conversation this morning, for those who've joined now, is Luisa from Standard Bank, Mizi from Absa, and PJ from Nedbank. And what we're going to do is we'll be posing questions to them this morning that we have come up so far. You're more than welcome to also add questions as well. If you'd like to open up to the panel, you can say my questions for the panel. If you'd like to open up to a specific person or bank, then you can also address it to a specific person or bank for me to ask those questions as we go on this morning. So obviously to start off this morning, looking at the impact of COVID-19 on the banking sector. A lot of people are looking at how's the banking sector specifically been affected through COVID-19. I'm going to open it up to the panel. Is there anybody who would like to take a shot at that one first?
Hi, Neil. I don't mind going first. I think the most important thing to remember around COVID and the impact is that as soon as it impacts bank clients, it ultimately also impacts banking. So what we've seen as some of the impact that's coming through is that an increased number of clients are becoming distressed. Distressed meaning that they are unable to keep up with their obligations or loan repayments. This further results in the bank having to then increase its impairments and therefore increasing its provisions, which is funds that we set aside for loans that may go bad. But at the center of it, I think it's always important to remember that when there's less cash flowing for our clients, that means less money is flowing through the banks. And ultimately, we feel the same impact that our business clients are feeling.
Yeah, I think
thanks for that.
If I can add to that, Neil, I think the impact is not much different from what we've seen in other businesses as well, where the volumes really declined, and we were also blocked to a certain sense with regards to the lockdown rules, where we were only allowed to offer certain essential services to our clients through our branches, So a lot of the turnover, if our clients don't put turnover through their accounts, obviously there's no turnover that's been going through the bank, So all the banks obviously had a reduction in what we call our non-interest revenue due to the lack of transactions. So we were not much different impacted, than the normal business out there in terms of our activities.
Missy, is there anything you'd like to add on to that?
Yeah.
Missy froze there on his side at the moment. Missy, are you there? Yeah, we're just going to wait for Missy to join us, and we'll obviously go into that.
They prioritized their basics when it comes to their funding. Your bank debt became the last came up to the bottom of your list of priorities as a consumer or client. And secondly, this has impacted on the bank employees that would have. PJ is talking about the guys that were impacted, and then they would have to sit at home, work from home. The sales department was really not your essential side of business. So they really get frustrated and get worried in terms of the future of their job, the job security.
No, definitely. I think a lot of people looked at the job security and was a bit worried. Missy, I'm just going to ask you, your sound is very soft. If you can just speak a little bit louder for us, so that we can obviously make sure that everybody does hear all of the answers. Just also on the banking sector about COVID-19, there was an article this morning by one of the media houses about, the banks could also be in trouble, specifically throughout this whole COVID-19. Obviously, banks has a certain like backups and stuff in place to make sure that the bank doesn't collapse. What's your response to an article like that?
Well, I think, Neil, if I can go for it first, I think it's important, I don't think anybody's immune to failure, given the situation. I think if anybody told us the 1st of January 2020 that we're going to sit in this situation today, you would have thought that you're looking at some scary movie, or that it's out, it's not possible. So all the banks have to comply with certain regulations, which has been set out by the SARB, the South African Reserve Bank. And we are forced or by legally binded to keep certain capital reserves in the background, which is held by the central bank. And obviously, we are scrutinized on a regular basis in terms of our conduct, the quality of our book, the quality of our assets, and the general conduct and compliance with all these rules. So I don't think we should say never will it happen. But at this point in time, I think the banking industry is stable. And obviously, we've been affected by the loss of the income and the reduction on the income. But, I think we will also be impacted going forward in terms of maybe looking at our staff numbers, and costs, overhead costs, which we hope don't happen. But, nobody's immune at this point in time.
If I may add, Neil, I think at the most basic level, we should always remember that banking is about taking in client deposits and securing them, and then using some of those deposits for on lending to other clients. So the risk we face is that our reserves, as PJ has mentioned, but also deposits from clients, as they reduce, it means the bank then has to source additional alternatives from a funding perspective for normal operations. So as PJ mentioned, we are also not immune to the impact, because as soon as it impacts retail clients or business clients, it also filters through us. And then it means we need to go to the capital markets then to raise capital for the operations that we need to run.
Thank you so much. Missy, anything from your side?
Neil, I think my colleagues have covered that. I'll just highlight the one or two things, which is PJ alluded to Basel III, that we have to keep some reserves as the bank. And then also the second factor that would give people a level of comfort is the fact that we, as the banking sector of South Africa, we've been leading worldwide. We are number 2 or number 3. So it gives a lot of comfort to the economies out there that we will be stable even after this COVID-19 impact.
Thank you so much for that, Nizi. Then another question we're going into: challenges experienced by the banking sector during this time. What would you say that is specifically?
So I'd give that a question response to that. The main challenge, Neil, during this time is around how do we support our clients to remain in business, because it's a last resort for the bank to see a business going under. But unfortunately, we're not in a position, and we are guided by regulation in terms of our lending practices, etc. So as far as possible, we try to assist clients with solutions that can help them trade through this. But as mentioned, it can only go so far. So that's one of the things we're experiencing on our side is how do we stay close to our clients, assist them through this period without the eventuality of the business folding and going under.
Thank you so much.
If I can add, I see Stephen have posted a question as well. If I can maybe just comment on that as well. I think all the banks' approach, since the lockdown has been we've taken a view on how can we assist our clients out there to survive through the lockdown and the impact of that, because it's also beneficial for us to help our clients to survive, because by doing that we also secure our own future. So we've had a lot of business as usual assistance that we did with our clients, and recently, and I think we'll get to that during our conversation as well, rolling out the government COVID-19 scheme. So as far as we are concerned, we really have an open attitude and see how we can help, and obviously, trying to keep our clients on their feet.
Perfectly. And I just want to bring up that question specifically that you've just spoken about, because not everybody would have been able to see it. Stephen asked a question for the panel with regards to COVID-19 and the impact of the banking industry. How do the banks foresee the outlook with regards to risk appetite and providing growth orientated credit to local businesses that are not perfect clients and of massive balance sheets? Is there anything that anybody wants to add on to what PJ mentioned there?
I think the simplest answer or the straightforward answer there, Neil, is that to Stephen's question, we remain open for business, especially where clients are in a growth phase and their prospects are looking bright. So it's not to say that we've closed our doors for business during these times. It just means that during this time, we'll just look at closer the ventures that clients are wanting to embark on, and the point around risk appetite. Definitely during these times, as more clients go into default and bad debts, the bank would also like to make sure that we are not doing business recklessly. So we'll provide funding to businesses that have a sound plan and are secured in terms of the future outlook. Not 100% secured, but in more eventuality than not, how are they going to be shielded from what's taking place? But in summary, we remain open to business, especially if the business is looking to adapt. We've seen a number of clients, for example, that have adapted their businesses to take advantage of what's happening, going into making sanitizers, some restaurants doing deliveries, etc. So we are open for businesses where businesses themselves are demonstrating that they are agile and are doing something about what's happening rather than sitting back.
Just to add on what Musa just said, if you look at it, this is the time where I say the relationship with the bank becomes critical, because if you have your relationship manager, your relationship banker in any bank, this is the time that that relationship you need to leverage on as the client. That banker knows you at this stage. You know what your bank expects from you. This is opportune for you to come in and say, this is where I am sitting at this stage. What do we do as in order to assist me as your client bank?
Thanks so much for that, Nizi. If there's any more questions for those just joining us, I see that a few people have come in just now. You're more than welcome to ask any questions in the chat side there, and we will be asking the panel that this morning. And you can direct it straight to Standard Bank, Absa, or Nedbank if you'd like, or address it to the whole panel in the chat side there specifically. Now, if I go on to my next question, the major issues with businesses now is cash flow, obviously. If they're not generating an income but still have to pay bills, what funding interventions do you offer to support businesses during that after COVID-19? So here we're looking at major businesses with cash flow and not generating any income, but still has to pay those bills. What funding interventions do you offer to support businesses during and after COVID-19?
Well, I think Neil, since the lockdown, various instruments has been used by the banks with our existing client base. Where there was major restructures in terms of loan repayments, payment holidays, or assisting a client with temporary facilities for the period of the lockdown to help them to pull through. So there's a various number of assistance that was as business as usual offered to our client base. And obviously, the government also now came forth with the SME COVID-19 scheme through the Treasury and the South African Reserve Bank, which is also being rolled out through all the major banks, which is the next level of assistance that's been offered to our clients.
If I may just expand on what PJ has mentioned, just to provide just more detail and clarity. So when we refer to payment holidays, from a Standard Bank perspective, what that means is that we've allowed our business clients to defer their payments on either, let's say, on their vehicle and asset finance, their commercial property finance, or their term loan product for up to a period of 3 months. That then provides the business with some, call it, breathing room during this period. So rather than you being expected to pay for 3 months while you're not generating an income, we can defer that for a period. And as mentioned, the recent one, which I'd like to implore all businesses that have experienced a decline in revenue during this period is the government guaranteed loan, which is aimed at businesses to assist them with their operational expenses for a period of up to 3 months. And how that works is that it's a prime linked facility that can be repayable over a period of 5 years. And I think given the time we are in, it will assist in covering operational expenses such as salaries, rent, and any supplier costs that are required to carry the business for the next 3 months at least.
Is that something new, Larissa, that's been brought forward now?
It's how it came about. You would remember about a month ago or 4 weeks ago, President Ramaphosa announced a fund of about 200 billion that would be set aside by government and facilitated through the banks. So that is the fund that is being administered by the banks through the Treasury and the SOB.
Cool. And just on that as well, and it's going to lead to my next question, but Nisi, is there anything else you want to add on to this?
We also on the same offering, as Luisa said, that we have the government guarantee. We also using the 3 months deferral on the client's cash flow, where the client has experienced a negative impact on his cash flow during this COVID period. And we're looking at the period and saying if it's going to be extended in terms of the lockdown, it has a longer impact, we will review. We also saying to them, the client has an option if you want to continue paying the service fees or paying the interest, or you want to defer everything. It's also an option that is open for our clients at this stage. What we've done, we've taken a proactive approach where we said, we sent in SMSs to the clients and said, look, if you want to opt in for this deferral, you can opt in. So we had that easy option. And also say, look, give us a proof that you've been impacted negatively on your cash flow with this COVID-19 period. So we will look at that. So that's what we've taken, the approach we've taken on commercial asset finance or commercial property finance as well. We've also looked at our merchants that are using our devices, and we've said we will waive the fees. We will also defer the fees where people that there's just been a reduction in terms of revenue, but you still have revenue coming in, but there's a reduction. So we will look at that and say, how can we assist you as the client?
Thank you so much for that. Now, my next question is, who can apply and how do you apply for these interventions and solutions? Now, we all know with regards to the third payments, that would be contacting your bank and so forth. But let's direct this one more to the loan that can be applied for to help with your operational costs and so forth. Who can apply for it? How do you apply? And then lastly, is your current financial situation taken into account of that? So if you've received nothing from your clients in the last 2 months, now, for example, your cash flow is almost eaten up, you showing a negative in the bank account, you're in your overdraft, is that going to affect you negatively now to apply for this loan to assist with operational costs going forward? Anybody that wants to start off with that one?
I don't mind going first. So Neil, around the process of applying for the COVID-19 loan, which is the government guaranteed loan, on the Standard Bank side, how the process we've laid out is that the client would need to go to our website, which is www.standardbank.co.za, and there's a page that is dedicated to COVID-19 relief, where the client can then go and apply there. In terms of who applies, it's all businesses that have a turnover below 300 million annually. But here the caveat is that prior to the end of February, the business must have been in good standing with Standard Bank. What this means, Neil, is that we won't assess your application based on the turnover we are seeing today. We will assess it based on how were you doing prior to COVID hitting us. And then we'll use that as a basis, but also applying a forward view in terms of can you afford the loan? So that's the other important element that we need to be aware of around this loan, is that the business must be in a position to afford to pay the loan once the installments become due.
Cool. So that's obviously prior to February. So your financial situation now doesn't really get taken into account at all, or does it at some point gets taken into account?
Would you please repeat that, Neil? I didn't catch it. There's some background noise.
No problem. So, so obviously you're mentioning it's prior to lockdown of February, where your financial situation, you had to be in good standing. Will your financial situation at all be taken into account now? That say things are really bad now in terms of your company, will the bank take that into account, or are they exclusively looking at February this year?
So to follow on to that question, Neil, definitely part of the assessment we need to satisfy is that the business must exhibit or show that they've been negatively impacted due to the trading environment, and it's meant specifically for clients that have been negatively impacted by this pandemic. So it is perfect for clients that are currently have reduced their turnover in excess of 20%. And I'd like to mention as well that this is called a loan of last resort for clients. So if they still have scope or still have mechanisms to still trade and not use this fund, because what would happen eventually is that if everyone applies for it but doesn't really need it, the smaller guy on the street is the one that's going to be impacted the most, because then the funds would have been depleted, etc. So it's a loan of last resort. And yes, we do take into consideration what impact has it had. So we need to assess the client situation to understand, have you seen a reduction in revenue? Yes. And are you in distress? Yes. Then this loan is perfect for you. But my colleagues can add, my peers can add on to that.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. We've just lost Mizi there. I'm sure he's going to join us again. So, Peter, anything you want to add on to that?
I think, Neil, just to add to Louisa, is also to say that the structure of the loan is also directed, the way that the loan has been put together is also to taking into consideration the current situation, whereby the client can get the assistance. The idea is to help with about 3 months worth of operational costs. Now, the operational cost is like rent, your salaries, your normal cost to try and keep the business going. And then the way that the bank structure is that all the banks agreed with the central bank that we will give these loans at prime interest rate, and that there will be no repayment for the next 6 months. So the clients will only be expected to start repaying in month 7 after you've taken up the loan. So this is also aimed at trying to assist the client, and the term of repayment is normally 5 years. And as a matter of interest, there is no fees charged by the bank, like admin fees or raising fees, like we normally do in our normal way of business. And that the clients will not be penalized if they want to settle these loans earlier. So in other words, if the business comes back on their feet and the cash flow is back to normal, and they feel that they want to repay the loan, they can do so at any stage, and there will be no penalty by the bank in terms of the early termination. So you will see that the whole loan has been put together with the view of helping the clients out there.
I also want to ask, is this a fixed interest specifically on this loan, or is the person take, obviously it's 5 years, don't know what interest rates will be like in a few years. Before we go on to that, Mizi, anything that you wanted to add on to that question specifically? I'm not sure if you got it.
I missed a bit of that, Neil, so I will let it go.
So it's obviously who can apply for any of the interventions by the bank, and banks, and how do they apply? Louisa obviously took us through how a person could apply. You go to the bank's website and so forth. PJ took us also through how long the loan is and the interest rates and so forth. Anything from your side you'd like to add on to that?
Okay. Just a brief one on that side. This has been, you can apply via the relationship banker. And then secondly, who can apply is your merchant, your clients that have are impacted by negatively on their cash flow. Because we'll ask for proof on that in that space as to how have you been impacted. Your clients that also, if they have any kind of a loan with us, they need to prove to us that they have been conducting their financials very well in the process, because we do not want to take someone who's already in distress and make it worse. That would be reckless on our part. So those are the two things that I would like to highlight in that space. The term we said we're deferring for 3 months, and when it comes to government guarantee process, it will be the same for all banks.
Missy, maybe you could answer this one. Would it be a fixed interest rate, or does it depend specifically on it? Because I think PG, you mentioned, or Larissa, you mentioned it's prime. So prime at the moment is, just to be correct, how much is prime?
There would be on the government guarantee one, it would be prime, and then when it comes to an existing loan that we are assisting our clients with, then it stays the same. There's no change in terms of interest rate. We're not penalizing the clients in this instance.
But on the government loan, so that's prime. That's the interest rate is prime. Will that be fixed throughout the whole 5 years or not?
Yes, it stays prime the whole 5 years. Remember, the government guarantee is where the loan is covered by Reserve Bank for us as the banks to say, listen, that we are going to cover that loan, but also we need to take into consideration that in terms of security, the banks still have to look at ensuring that this loan can be paid back, because when you get to default as the client, then the bank is going to take a knock at the end of the day. So bank takes about 6% knock, and the cost of their recovery as well if there's something that goes wrong with that loan. So at any given point, we will be looking at the risk credit process.
Thanks so much.
So Neil, just to expand to your question, to the question. So prime currently is sitting at around 7.25, and it would be prime linked. What this means is that if prime reduces further, if let's say the South African Reserve Bank reduces later in the year, then the rate would also change downwards. But also, if then in the next 2 years the rates starts to increase, then the rate would also increase. So it fluctuates with the prime lending rate as it goes with the repo rate.
Thanks so much for that, Lisa. Anybody that wants to add on to that before we go on to the next question? So the next question specifically, and please, those who's joining us, you're more than welcome to ask any questions in the chat side, is who can, or how can one apply for these intervention solutions we obviously went through? And it's on the website and through your bank if you want. How can these interventions help me, the entrepreneur, business owner, and corporate companies specifically?
Well, I think the emphasis at this point in time, Neil, is on survival. With this specific loan, looking at 3 months operational cost is to try and help the businesses to survive and try to get through the lockdown and the impact thereof. I also think maybe it's just important at this point in time to mention also, not a lot of people are aware of it, but that there is currently about 23 different COVID-19 assistance schemes out there, which is not necessarily through the banks, but like the tourism assistance that's been rolled out, the tax relief that's been given by the receiver of revenue. So there's quite a few different interventions as well, and I would suggest that our audience maybe just go and have a look, because like I said, 23 different schemes being offered out there, or assistance being offered, is really, I think, one of the things that we've picked up is not a lot of people are aware of it. So it's important also maybe just to go and expand and look at some of the other schemes that's out there to assist the business.
BJ, where would anybody get that list specifically?
Well, Nedbank do have a document that we willing to share with a description and who to contact, in terms of that assistance.
Samantha, I see that you've raised your hand to speak. You're more than welcome to in the chat side. Just give you a question there. We can't bring you onto the screen as a speaker, but just in the chat side, Samantha, if you could ask a question there specifically, then I'll be able to relay it through to the panel as well, and they'll also be able to see that. Luiso, is there anything that you'd like to add on to that question?
Definitely, Neil. I think the important thing to remember with all of these relief programs, it's aimed at assisting businesses to manage or reduce their financial obligations during this period, given that they currently aren't generating the same levels of revenue where they'd normally be able to afford their normal expenses. So it's just to provide some level of financial relief, and that's how it's intended to help while the business is rethinking about how the future looks, how to adapt and approach this. Because one of the things that keeps coming through in different media houses is that COVID-19 is going to be here for a while. So as a business, we should always be thinking is how do we adapt to the current times to remain in business while there's this relief program that's in place for a period up to 6 months, as we've mentioned.
Just also on that, if I'm a sole proprietor, do I also fall into that to apply for this government loan specifically if I don't have a closed corporation or PTY, but obviously sole proprietor working out of my personal bank account, would I qualify?
Yes, as long as you are able to prove that you are paying tax, so you've got to be able to prove that you're running a business and that you're a taxpayer in terms of that income. So it's not really it's not available for the individual maybe running a private loan facilities or something like that. It's got to be like a formal sole proprietor, and like I said, you have to be registered for tax and be able to prove that you're paying tax on that income. That will help you, assist you, or allow you to apply for the loan.
Perfect. Then also, what advice do you have for entrepreneurs and SMEs to be financially assisted during this time? So we've gone through deferred payments, we've gone through the government loan. Is there any other advice or anything you'd like to add on to this? And I'm going to give each speaker from a bank to an opportunity to speak. So maybe let's start with you, Mizi, from Absa Bank. What advice do you have for entrepreneurs and SMEs to be financially assisted at this time?
Thanks, Neil. One, I would say the SMEs, they need to approach their banks, their relationship bankers in every bank. The second one, Loiso alluded to earlier on regarding how people have diversified as they've gone and gotten into supplying the PPE at this stage of COVID-19. Now that is very key, because you need to ensure that when we lend to you or when you approach us for finances as well, for financial assistance, we can see that there's something that you're doing. You are still have to, when we lend as a bank, we lend based on the forecasted cash flow. So when you forecast cash flow at this stage, you need to ensure that there's something that you'll be trading on. If lockdown gets extended, we get back to level 5, what happens to your business? So you need to be ready. You need to show us that you're being proactive as well on that side. And then PJ alluded to the fact that we have a number of interventions that are out there that one can utilize, and people need to use the information. This is when knowledge is power. So people need to do some research and ensure that they know what we're doing.
Thank you so much, PJ. PJ, anything from you?
Yes, I think from what I've seen so far is that one of the challenges that we're experiencing is our clients is not always in a position to help us with or readily available in terms of their financial information. So it's important that when you do approach your bank, to have as much as possible financial information available. I think Stephen earlier referred to the perfect client. Now we all know nothing is really perfect in life, so we do see the impact, on the businesses in terms of the cash flow. And I think, just from a general point of view in terms of business, it's important to look at other options. Is there an opportunity for you as a business to maybe go onto a digital platform? Is there a way of expanding your services or your products? Stock levels, what does your stock levels look like? Cash flow is the name of the game. And obviously, a lot of focus, unfortunately, that's the effect of the lockdown, is that a lot of businesses are focused on cutting the cost to enable them to survive. And then I think, if you look at our audience today, being in the import and export business, I really think that when the lockdown worldwide is going to start to be lifted, that we'll see increased pressure in terms of the availability of transport. The vessels might be overloaded because everyone would like to move their goods. So I think planning is extremely important going forward. With the lockdown process being lifted, in terms of your planning, if you're exporting, make sure that you plan well in advance, and that you book the available space in terms of the vessels. And lastly, but not least, Neil, I think it's important during this time to in a difficult times. Is also the time where we normally have the ability to come up with looking for new opportunities. And I think everyone's just got to sit back a little bit and have a look at your business and see whether there's new opportunities, like I've mentioned, the digital platform availability.
Thank you so much for that, PJ. Luiso?
I'll just on my side, I'll just highlight as some of the points have been mentioned, but not to repeat in totality. I'd really encourage entrepreneurs and SMEs to proactively approach their banks during this time, to understand how they can be assisted, what solutions are available. Because on our side, we can only assist based on the circumstances presented by each client on a case by case. So I'd really implore all clients that are aware that their business is hampered, approach their relationship manager and seek guidance. And then the other point I think is very important to the bank and to clients is keeping up to date financial records. The importance of that is that the bank can't assess how we can assist if there isn't a track record or at least some level of tracking of how the business is performing through either management accounts, etc. So PJ mentioned it as well, that as soon as a client comes to us, we generally say we'd like to see your financial records, and sometimes those are outdated and difficult to come by, and it's difficult for us as a bank to support you if we can't see how the business has been performing, and we can't lend if we don't see that the business is generating some level of a profit, and it would be reckless of us just to lend based on what the client is saying. Further to that, I think entrepreneurs are the most versatile and forward-thinking people. I think spend time assessing what are the trends that are emerging during this period of time. And I've also, with my team, been spending a lot of time just to look at what are the new trends that are emerging. So we see a lot of online payment, online call it payments or purchases. So that means at the back end of that couriers stand to benefit quite a lot in the movement of goods to clients. But also, if we look at how human behavior is going to start to change, is that given the lockdown, people are going to be hesitant to be spending too much time in the outdoors, etc., for maybe a certain period. So it means things like people that offer services to deliver groceries, deliver medical supplies to clients. Those are the new things that are starting to come up. We've mentioned things like sanitizers, masks. Those spaces are quickly getting saturated. So it's a matter of first mover advantage there. So I think as entrepreneurs, we are bankers and we can only support you on the opportunity that we've identified. But I think there's going to be an emergence of new sectors that we will see, or the strengthening of some of them. And I've mentioned a couple of them. But I think if your business is not online at present or going forward, the business is at risk. Because if you look at it, any consumer starts on the internet when they're looking for certain goods to purchase. I mean, even when I'm looking for a nice restaurant to eat, or someone tells me about a restaurant, the first place I go is on the internet to firstly look at reviews, etc. So online presence is going to be key critical going forward because human behavior is shifting more towards that. And the level of convenience clients are requiring is more where the business comes to the client rather than previously where the client went to the business.
Definitely. Look, online presence is the way forward in terms of it. You see it more and more companies investing in terms of that to make sure they are present. We're going to get to our last question before we finish off. If there's anybody that'd like to add on to the chat, you're more than welcome to add. I'd just like also just to mention again our diamond members, who's SJM, Volkswagen South Africa, Propeller, IDC, DG Capital, Eberspacher, CEDA, Business Chamber, and Oracle Media. So just quickly before we finish off, we spoke about the government loan, which is for operational costs. Does operational cost, for example, include salaries? Does it include all of it? Is it your full operational cost, or is this something that is excluded from that money that you're going to apply for? Because obviously, when you apply for the loans by government through the bank, you'll have to say this is my operational cost. Is there stuff that you can outright say no, it's not included in that?
I think maybe the easiest is to start off with what is included. Salaries and wages, rentals and lease payments, utilities, electricity, water and gas, other operational, because the operational expenses is the focus in terms of this loan. Your supply chain, the insurance claims, security, cash and transit services, and any operational specific costs that the company may incur in general, Neil.
Cool. And then lastly, we obviously everybody saw a lot of COVID-19 emails coming from, well, it looks like it's coming from your bank saying that your COVID-19 application's been successful. And if everybody that's applying for these loans now, those are things that obviously company owners and accounting staff needs to be quite vigilant about. Any advice on if you receive a correspondence from that looks like it's from the bank, it says your COVID-19 application has been successful, what should they look at, or should they just contact their banker personally?
I'll come in there, Neil. I think the most important thing that we always try to relay from a Standard Bank perspective to our clients is that at no point will we request our clients to capture confidential information on a website. So the bank, Standard Bank to be specific, that I'm representing, will never send Neil an email to say your records are outdated. Please capture your account number, your card number, all that confidential information. So I think that is the simplest way to put it, Neil, is to say the Standard Bank will never send you a link where we say, please update this. There's a payment that's waiting to be processed into your account, or funny things like that. But if you do receive a suspicious email, the best thing to do is not at all to click on any links that may be available on that email, and then be in contact with your relationship manager or your bank just to understand, is the bank sending out certain communications? Then your relationship manager should be in a position to confirm. And if they are unsure, then they will find out and provide you with a response. But the bank, Standard Bank being specific, does not send requests for information, like private information, like your PIN numbers and all of that, through links.
Anything, Peter or Mizi, you'd like to add on to that?
I think Neil, Loiso has got it, that one, because I know no bank actually goes in and says, here's a link, you need to click on this. Fraudsters have taken this opportunity of COVID-19. I've seen a number of WhatsApp messages from fraudsters going into our clients, and some of our clients have clicked these links, and that really makes people vulnerable. So, as Loiso said, if you get these kinds of messages, contact your bank, do not click. And it's appreciated that the client also contacts us, because it makes us aware of what is going on there in terms of the trends and with these hackers and fraudsters.
Awesome.
Neil,
PJ.
if I may just add a bit, just for a quick tip for everyone that's listening. So in Microsoft Outlook, you'll have at the top right something that looks like an open email which says report phishing. It's got a hook-like thing at the top right. If you suspect, a client suspects this is not coming from the bank, all you need to do is that you press that link, and it will report it either to one of your banks, but also it will verify and discard that email. So that's the other option available to clients for an awareness perspective.
Oh, well, thanks so much for that, Louise. So, as we finish off this morning, going into this afternoon, anything else that each of you would like to add on before we finish off with regard to that? Maybe, Louise, so if you want to start off, if there's anything you'd like to add on.
No, from a Standard Bank side, Neil, all I'd just like to say is that Standard Bank is here for all its clients. We are open for business, for the clients that have growth opportunities. We are available to assist where we can, but also just to implore the businesses out there. I think there's a certain negative stigma that may be associated with the government guaranteed loan. And I'd just like to also clarify that there isn't a black dot or anything like that by applying for this fund. It's meant to assist businesses that are in distress. It's the perfect loan as the last resort for businesses that are in difficult times. But if there are any further questions or points of clarity that want to be directed to Standard Bank, the East Cape exporters can gladly share my email when we close this out, and I'll field any questions if there are any clients that are listening. But overall, the bank is here to support as far as possible our clients during this period.
Thanks so much, Loiso. Mizi, anything from you?
Okay, just to add on that and conclude, Neil. Look, one thing that I always implore the employers and the business owners is to look after your people. They are your most important resource at this stage. And this has impacted, has created a lot of anxiety out there. And this is the time that you need to show that you care. And secondly, as a bank, we are available. Your business bankers, your primary relationship managers are there for you to approach. We can talk business, and then yeah, I think that's it from me. Neil, thank you.
Thanks, Mizi. DJ?
Yes, Neil, if I can add, I think it's obvious we're all available to our clients with a phone call away, email away, and if in doubt, you're also welcome just to visit the websites of the different banks. I think what's very important throughout this whole conversation for me is the fact that we're trying to help our clients, whether through these schemes or business as usual. And just to add to what Luisa was saying is that there's no mark or you won't be reported to the credit bureau, whatever, if you ask for a payment holiday or for a temporary facility, a bridging facility to help you. The idea is really to take hands with our clients and build our relationships and make sure that we all survive and come out on the other side of this lockdown and the impact of COVID-19.
Thank you so much, everybody. I just wanted to add on to this. I see Samantha say, hey, everybody, do the loans cover purchasing of goods? So obviously the government loan is for operational cost. Am I correct in saying that that does not cover purchasing of goods?
Incorrect, Neil. So we would fund the purchase of stock, definitely. But I'd like just to maybe give an example. So if a restaurant or a food retailer is wanting to buy stock, obviously in the assessment you wouldn't want to apply to the bank for your full month as normal trading activity. So for example, if you're under normal trading activity, your stock purchases is, let's say, 100,000. Currently, in the trading environment, you wouldn't be requiring 100,000 of stock because potentially, as a food outlet, you'd be doing deliveries. So, which means you'd use less stock. So that's where you just need to adjust that requirement, because at the end of the day, in as much as the loan may be approved, the important thing to note that there's a repayment that comes with it. So it's about how do you cap it to say I only need maybe about 50,000 for 3 months to buy stock, and rather than inflating it, because at the end of the day, if it gets approved, the client is going to be the one that's left with the repayments.
Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. So obviously, this is our second webinar from Exporters. We will be having more. You're more than welcome to contact Suzanne if you've got any suggestions on those to follow. Just again, thanks to our Diamond members, SJM, Volkswagen Group South Africa, Propeller, IDC, DG Capital, Eberspacher, CEDA, Business Chamber, and Oracle Media. And then a massive thank you to Luisa from Standard Bank, Misi from Absa, and PJ from Nedbank. Thanks so much, guys, for joining us and sharing your info. We will, is it fine if anybody contacts Suzanne for your contact details, that we provide that through to them as well?
Comfortable on my side.
Yes.
Thank you. So anybody that wants to ask anything directly, maybe to Lisa from Standard Bank, Nisi from Absa, or PJ from Nedbank, you can contact Suzanne on the exporter side and request that details. I want to thank everybody for joining us, and also to our speakers for joining us for this discussion today.
Thank you, Neil.
Thank you, Neil.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a good day, and then we will be in contact with regards to the next one coming up. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one. Bye-bye.